The Gothic Topic podcast presents Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte, adapted as an audio drama by Rachel Pulliam, starring Colette Fian and Peter Hindsoth, with music by Ross Bernhardt and sound effects by freesound.org.
Would you walk this way, Mom?
Mrs. Fairfax, I suppose?
How do you do, my dear? I am afraid you have had a tedious ride. John drives so slowly. You must be cold. Come to the fire. I dare say your own hands are almost numb with cold. Leah went to fetch us some hot tea and cut us a sandwich or two.
That's very kind of you.
Now then, draw nearer to the fire and warm yourself. You've brought your luggage with you, haven't you, my dear?
Yes, Mum.
I'll see it carried to your room.
Shall I have the pleasure of seeing Miss Fairfax tonight?
Oh, what was that, my dear? I'm a little deaf.
Will I see Miss Fairfax tonight?
Miss Fairfax? Oh, you mean Miss Verens. Verens is the name of your future pupil.
Indeed. Then she is not your daughter?
No, I have no family. I am so glad you are come. It will be quite pleasant living here now with a companion. To be sure, it is pleasant at any time, for Thornfield is a fine old hall, rather neglected of late years, perhaps, but still it is a respectable place. Yet, you know, in winter-time, one feels dreary, quite alone in the best quarters. I say alone. Leah is a nice girl, to be sure. She and her husband, John, are very decent people. But then, you see, they are only servants, and one can't converse with them on terms of equality. One must keep them at due distance, for fear of losing one's authority. I'm sure last winter, it was a very severe one, if you recollect, and when it did not snow, it rained and blew. Not a creature but the butcher and postman came to the house, from November till February, and I really got quite melancholy with sitting night after night alone. I had Leah in to read to me sometimes, but I don't think the poor girl liked the task much. She felt it confining. In spring and summer one got on better. Sunshine and long days make such a difference. And then, just at the commencement of this autumn, little Adele Verens. A child makes a house alive all at once. And now you are here, I shall be quite happy. But I'll not keep you sitting up late tonight. It is on the stroke of 12 now, and you have been traveling all day. You must feel tired. If you have got your feet well warmed, I'll show you your bedroom. I've had the room next to mine prepared for you. It is only a small apartment, but I thought you would like it better than one of the large front chambers. To be sure, they have finer furniture, but they are so dreary and solitary. I never sleep in them myself. What? Out already? I see you're an early riser. How do you like Thornfield?
I like it very much.
Yes, it is a pretty place. but I fear it will be getting out of order, unless Mr. Rochester should take it into his head to come and reside here permanently, or at least visit it more often. Great houses and fine grounds require the presence of the proprietor.
Mr. Rochester? Who is he?
The owner of Thornfield. Did you not know he was called Rochester?
I thought Thornfield belonged to you.
To me? Bless you, child, what an idea. To me. I am only the housekeeper, the manager. To be sure, I am distantly related to the Rochesters by the mother's side, or at least my husband was. He was a clergyman, incumbent of Hay, that little village yonder on the hill, and that church near the gates was his. The present Mr. Rochester's mother was a Fairfax, and second cousin to my husband. But I never presume on the connection. In fact, it is nothing to me. I consider myself quite in the light of an ordinary housekeeper. My employer is always civil, and I expect nothing more.
And the little girl? My pupil?
She is Mr. Rochester's ward. He commissioned me to find a governess for her. He intended to have her brought up in Shire, I believe. Here she comes now. Good morning, Miss Adele. Come and speak to the lady who is to teach you, and to make you a clever woman someday.
C'est la ma gouvernante.
Oh, she is French then.
Adele was born on the continent, and I believe never left it till within 6 months ago. When she first came here, she could speak no English. Now she can make shift to talk it a little. I don't understand her. She mixes it so with French, but you will make out her meaning very well, I dare say.
Adèle, faites attention s'il vous plaît.
Ah, you speak my language as well as Monsieur Rochester does. I can talk to you as I can to him. Madame Fairfax is all English. Mademoiselle, what is your name?
Eyre. Jane Eyre.
Eyre? But I cannot say it. Well, our ship stopped in the morning. Before it was quite delight. At a great city, a huge city with very dark houses and all smoky. Not at all like the pretty clean town I came from. And Monsieur Rochester carried me in his arm over a plain to the land. And we got into a coach, which took us to a beautiful large house, larger than this and thinner, called an hotel. We stayed there nearly a week. I and Monsieur Rochester used to walk every day in a great green place full of trees, called the park. And there were many children there beside me, and a pond with beautiful birds in it that I fed with crumbs.
Can you understand her when she runs on so fast?
Rather well. I studied under Madame Pierrot at Lowood, and did my best to always converse with her en français.
I see.
May I play a song for you, mademoiselle?
Oh, that would be lovely.
Oui, then I shall play you a song Mama used to dance to.
In what order you keep these rooms, Mrs. Fairfax? No dust, no canvas coverings. Except that the air feels chilly, one would think they were inhabited daily.
Why, Miss Eyre, though Mr. Rochester's visits here are rare, they are always sudden and unexpected. And as I observed that it put him out to find everything swathed up, and to have a bustle of arrangement on his arrival, I thought it best to keep the rooms in readiness.
Is Mr. Rochester an exacting, fastidious sort of man?
Not particularly so, but he has a gentleman's tastes and habits, and he expects to have things managed in conformity to them.
Do you like him? Is he generally liked?
Oh, yes. The family have always been respected here. Almost all the land in this neighborhood, as far as you can see, has belonged to the Rochesters, time out of mind.
Well, but leaving his land out of the question, do you like him? Is he liked for himself?
I have no cause to do otherwise than like him. And I believe he is considered a just and liberal landlord by his tenants. But he has never lived much amongst them.
But he has no peculiarities? What, in short, is his character?
Oh, his character is unimpeachable, I suppose. He is rather peculiar, perhaps. He has travelled a great deal and seen a great deal of the world, I should think. I dare say he is clever, but I never had much conversation with him.
In what way is he peculiar?
I don't know. It is not easy to describe. Nothing striking, but you feel it when he speaks to you. You cannot be always sure whether he is in jest or earnest, whether he is pleased or the contrary. You don't thoroughly understand him, in short. At least I don't. But it is of no consequence. He is a very good master.
Did you like it, mademoiselle?
Oh, very much, Adele. You will have to teach me that tune you were playing. Was it your maman that taught you that piece?
Yes. And now shall I dance for you?
No, that will do. But after your mama went to the Holy Virgin, as you say, with whom did you live then?
With Madame Frédéric and her husband. She took care of me, but she is nothing related to me. I think she is poor, for she had not so fine a house as Mama. I was not long there. Monsieur Rochester asked me if I would like to go and live with him in England, and I said yes, for I knew Monsieur Rochester before I knew Madame Frédéric, and he was always kind to me and gave me pretty dresses and toys. But, you see, he has not kept his word, for he has brought me to England, and now he is gone back again himself, and I never see him.
Mrs. Fairfax? Mrs. Fairfax! Did you hear that loud laugh?
Some of the servants, very likely. Perhaps Grace Poole.
But did you hear it?
Yes, plainly. I often hear her. She sews in one of these rooms. Sometimes Leah is with her. They are frequently noisy together. Grace! Too much noise, Grace. Remember directions. She's a person we have to sew, and assist Leah in her housemaid's work. Not altogether unobjectionable in some points, but she does well enough.
Do the servants sleep in these rooms?
No, they occupy a range of smaller apartments to the back. No one ever sleeps here. One would almost say that if there were a ghost at Thornfield Hall, this would be its haunt.
So I think you have no ghost, then?
None that I ever heard of.
Nor any traditions of one? No legends, ghost stories?
I believe not. And yet it is said the Rochesters have been rather a violent rather than a quiet race in their time. Perhaps, though, that is the reason they rest tranquilly in their graves now.
Yes, after life's fitful fever, they sleep well. Where are you going now, Mrs. Fairfax?
There's a letter I need sent to the post. I was leaving to fetch John for the task.
Give me the letter, Mrs. Fairfax. I'll take it to the post.
Are you certain, my dear? You're still out of step with these surroundings.
Indeed. Out of step, and it's time I learned my way around.
As you wish. Mind the darkness. The hillside can become frightfully treacherous this time of year.
Oh, what the deuce am I supposed to do now?
Are you injured, sir? Can I do anything?
You must just stand to one side. Down, pilot!
If you are hurt and want help, sir, I can fetch someone from Thornfield Hall.
Thank you. I shall do. I have no broken bones, only a sprain.
I can't think of leaving you, sir, at so late an hour in this solitary lane till I see you are fit to mount your horse.
I should think you ought to be at home yourself. If you have a home in this neighbourhood, where do you come from?
From just below, and I am not at all afraid of being out late when it is moonlight. I will run over to Hay for you with pleasure if you wish it. Indeed, I'm going there to post a letter.
You live just below? Do you mean at that house with the battlements?
Yes, sir.
Whose house is it?
Mr. Rochester's?
Do you know Mr. Rochester?
No, I've never seen him.
He is not resident, then?
No,
Ah. Can you tell me where he is?
I cannot.
You are not a servant at the hall, of course. You are,
I'm the governess.
Ah, the governess. Deuce take me if I had not forgotten. The governess. Oh! I cannot commission you to fetch help, but you may help me a little yourself, if you will be so kind.
Yes, sir.
You have not an umbrella I can use as a stick.
No.
Try to get hold of my horse's bridle and lead him to me. You are not afraid? I see. The mountain will never be brought to Mohammed, so all you can do is to aid Mohammed to go to the mountain. I must beg of you to come here. Excuse me. Necessity compels me to make you useful. Thank you. Now, make haste with the letter to Hay, and return as fast as you can.
That was fast, miss. Mrs. Fairfax was a bit worried that Jenny wouldn't agree with you.
What dog is this?
He came with the master.
With whom?
With the master. Mr. Rochester. He just arrived.
Indeed. And is Mrs. Fairfax with him?
Yes, and Miss Adele. They are in the dining room. And John has gone for a surgeon, for master has had an accident. His horse fell and his ankle is sprained.
Did the horse fall in Hay Lane?
Yes, coming downhill it slipped on some ice.
Ah, there you are, Miss Eyre. No doubt Leah has given you the news of Mr. Rochester's return.
Yes.
He's waiting in the drawing room, miss, and he insists on seeing you. Here is Miss Eyre, sir.
Let Miss Eyre be seated.
N'est-ce pas, monsieur, qu'il y a un cadeau pour Mademoiselle Eyre dans votre petit coffre?
Who talks of cadeaux? Did you expect a present, Miss Eyre? Are you fond of presents?
I hardly know, sir. I have little experience of them. They are generally thought pleasant things.
Generally thought. But what do you think?
I should be obliged to take time, sir, before I could give you an answer worthy of your acceptance. A present has many faces to it, has it not? And one should consider all before pronouncing an opinion as to its nature.
Miss Eyre, you are not so unsophisticated as Adele. She demands a cadeau the moment she sees me. You beat about the bush.
Because I have less confidence in my deserts than Adele has. She can prefer the claim of old acquaintance, and the right, too, of custom, for she says you have always been in the habit of giving her playthings. But if I had to make a case out, I should be puzzled, since I am a stranger, and have done nothing to entitle me to an acknowledgement.
Oh, don't fall back on over-modesty. I have examined Adele, and find you have taken great pains with her. She is not bright, she has no talents, yet in a short time she has made much improvement.
Sir, you have now given me my cadeau.
You have been resident in my house 3 months?
Yes, sir.
And you came from...
From Lowood Institution.
Ah, a charitable concern. How long were you there?
8 years.
8 years. You must be tenacious of life. I thought half the time in such a place would have done up any constitution. No wonder you have rather the look of another world. I marvelled where you had got that sort of face. When you came on me in Hay Lane, I thought unaccountably of fairy tales, and had half a mind to demand whether you had bewitched my horse. I am not sure yet. Who are your parents?
I have none.
I thought not. And so you were waiting for your people when you sat on that stile?
For whom, sir?
For the men in green. It was a proper moonlight evening for them. Did I break through one of your rings that you spread that ice on the causeway?
The men in green all forsook England 100 years ago. And not even in Hay Lane or the fields about it could you find a trace of them. I don't think either summer or harvest or winter moon will ever shine on their revels more.
Who recommended you to come here?
She advertised, and I answered. I am daily thankful for the choice Providence led me to make. Miss Eyre has been an invaluable companion to me, and a kind and careful teacher to Adele.
Don't trouble yourself to give her a character. I shall judge for myself. She made a start of it by bewitching my horse.
Sir?
I have her to thank for this sprain. It is 9 o'clock. What are you about, Miss Eyre, to let Adele sit up so long? Take her to bed.
Bonsoir, monsieur.
I wish you all good night.
Get some sleep, Adele.
Oui, mademoiselle. Bonsoir.
Bonsoir, Adele. You said Mr. Rochester was not strikingly peculiar, Mrs. Fairfax.
And is he peculiar, Miss Eyre?
I think so. He is very changeful and abrupt.
True, no doubt he may appear so to a stranger, but I am so accustomed to his manner, I never think of it. And then if he has peculiarities of temper, allowance should be made.
Why?
He is not very forgiving. He broke with his family, and now for many years he has led an unsettled kind of life. I don't think he has ever been resident at Thornfield for a fortnight together, since the death of his brother, without a will, left him master of the estate, and indeed no wonder he shuns the old place.
And why should he shun it?
Perhaps he finds it gloomy.
Mrs. Fairfax said I would find you here. I see you've grown accustomed to sketching.
Only during Adele's nap time. We've seen very little of you these past few weeks.
Indeed, Miss Eyre. Was my absence so noteworthy?
For Adele?
You examine me, Miss Eyre. Do you think me handsome?
No, sir. Sir, I was too plain. I beg your pardon. I ought to have replied that it was not easy to give an impromptu answer to a question about appearances, that tastes mostly differ, and that beauty is of little consequence, or something of that sort.
You ought to have replied no such thing. Beauty of little consequence, indeed. Now, ma'am, am I a fool?
Far from it. You would perhaps think me rude if I inquired in return whether you are a philanthropist?
No, young lady, I am not a general philanthropist, but I bear a conscience. When I was as old as you, I was a feeling fellow enough, partial to the unfledged, unfostered, and unlucky. But fortune has knocked me about since. She has even kneaded me with her knuckles. You look very much puzzled, Miss Eyre. And though you are not pretty any more than I am handsome, yet a puzzled air becomes you. Because it is convenient, for it keeps those searching eyes of yours away from my face. It would please me to draw you out, to learn more of you. Speak.
What about, sir?
Whatever you like. The choice is yours.
I am willing to amuse you, if I can, sir. Quite willing. But I cannot introduce a topic, because how do I know what will interest you? Ask me questions, and I will do my best to answer them.
Ah, it is consistent. I put my request in an absurd, almost insolent form. Miss Eyre, I beg your pardon. The fact is, I don't wish to treat you like an inferior. I claim only such superiority as must result from 20 years' difference in age and a century's advance in experience. I have plenty of faults of my own, I know it, and I don't wish to palliate them, I assure you. I need not be too severe about others. I have a past existence, a series of deeds, a colour of life to contemplate within my own breast, which might well call my sneers and censures from my neighbours to myself. I started, or rather, for like other defaulters, I like to lay half the blame on ill fortune and adverse circumstances, was thrust onto a wrong tack at the age of 21, and have never recovered the right course since. But I might have been very different. I might have been as good as you, wiser, almost as stainless. I envy you your peace of mind, your clean conscience, your unpolluted memory. Young lady, a memory without blot or contamination must be an exquisite treasure, an inexhaustible source of pure refreshment, is it not?
Est-ce que ma robe me va bien? Et mes souliers? Oh, et mes bas? Tenez, je crois que je vais danser. Monsieur, je vous remercie 1000 fois de votre bonté. C'est comme ça que maman faisait, n'est-ce pas, monsieur?
Precisely. And quand cela, she charmed my English gold out of my British breeches pocket. I have been green too, Miss Eyre. Aye, grass green. Not a more venal tint freshens you now than once freshened me. My spring is gone, however, but it has left me that French floweret on my hands, which, in some moods, I would fain be rid of. I called her my grande passion.
Sir?
Céline Varens, the daughter of a French opera dancer. I placed her in a hotel, spoiled her lavishly with trinkets, servants, diamonds. She had only to name it, and it was hers. Until one evening I saw the two of them emerge from a carriage.
And then, sir? You followed them?
You never felt jealousy, did you, Miss Eyre? Of course not. I need not ask you, because you never felt love. You have both sentiments yet to experience. Your soul sleeps. The shock is yet to be given, which shall waken it.
No, sir.
I walked in upon them, liberated Céline from my protection, gave her notice to vacate her hotel, offered her a purse for immediate exigencies, disregarded screams, hysterics, prayers, protestations, convulsions, made an appointment with her vicomte for a meeting at the Bois du Boulogne. Next morning I had the pleasure of encountering him, left a bullet in one of his poor etiolated arms, feeble as the wing of a chicken in the pip, and then thought I had done with the whole crew. But unluckily the Varens, 6 months before, had given me this fillette Adele, who she affirmed was my daughter. And perhaps she may be, though I see no proofs of such grim paternity written in her countenance. Pilot is more like me than she. Some years after I had broken with the mother, she abandoned her child, ran away to Italy with a musician or singer. I acknowledged no natural claim on Adele's part, to be supported by me. Nor do I now acknowledge any, for I am not her father. But hearing that she was destitute, I took the poor thing out of the slime and mud of Paris and transplanted it here to grow up clean in the wholesome soil of an English country garden. Mrs. Fairfax found you to train it. But now you know that it is the illegitimate offspring of a French opera girl, you will perhaps think differently of your post and protégé. You will be coming to me some day with notice that you have found another place, that you beg me to look out for a new governess, eh?
No. Adele is not answerable for either her mother's faults or yours. I have a regard for her, and now that I know she is, in a sense, parentless, forsaken by her mother, disowned by you, sir, I shall cling closer to her than before. How could I possibly prefer the spoilt pet of a wealthy family, who would hate her governess as a nuisance, to a lonely little orphan, who leans towards her as a friend?
Oh, that is the light in which you view it. Well, I must go in now, and you too. It darkens.
Who's there? Mr. Rochester! Mr. Rochester! Wake up!
What?
Sir, there's a fire!
Is there a flood?
No, sir, there has been a fire, and I'm afraid in my efforts to quench it,
In the name of all the elves in Christendom, is that Jane Eyre? Who is in the room beside you? Have you plotted to drown me?
somebody has plotted something.
What is it? Who did it?
There was an odd laugh. It woke me, and...
You have heard that laugh before, I should think. Or something like it.
Yes, sir. There is a woman who sews here, called Grace Poole. She laughs in that way. She is a singular person.
Just so. Grace Poole. You have guessed it. Well, I shall reflect on the subject. In the meantime, I am glad that you are the only person besides myself acquainted with the precise details of tonight's incident. You are no talking fool. Say nothing about it. I will account for this state of affairs. And now return to your own room. I shall do very well on the sofa in the library for the rest of the night. It is near 4. In 2 hours the servants will be up.
Good night then, sir.
I knew you would do me good in some way at some time. I saw it in your eyes when I first beheld you. Their expression and smile did not strike delight to my very inmost heart so for nothing. People talk of natural sympathies. I have heard of good genii. There are grains of truth in the wildest fable. My cherished preserver, good night.
What a mercy Master was not burned in his bed.
Always dangerous to keep a candle lit at night. Start cutting up them vegetables.
How providential that he had the presence of mind to think of the water jug.
I wonder if that's why he left us again. Come to think of it, I haven't seen him for several days.
Ah, Master's a funny one. Last time he left us for a month without so much as a buy-a leave.
What? Standing idle talking when we've much work to be done? Mr. Rochester will arrive by carriage any time now, with at least 8 guests accompanying him.
I wasn't aware he had left.
I hadn't expected you to know, dear. Adele is your priority over a mere whim of our master's.
Goodness, that'll be at least a dozen, I shouldn't wonder. I see 2 more conveyances headed in our direction.
Leah, gather the others to help you begin preparing all the rooms. John, begin attending to our guests as they arrive.
Yes, Mom.
Yes, Mrs. Fairfax.
Bonjour, mesdames.
It is Mr. Rochester's ward, I suppose. The little French girl he was speaking of.
What a love of a child!
Mrs. Fairfax, who is that woman Adele is speaking?
That's Miss Blanche Ingram, one of the most finest, accomplished ladies in the county.
She's not yet married.
No, but I dare say Mr. Rochester fancies her. They are always in each other's company.
Mr. Rochester, I thought you were not fond of children.
Nor am I.
Then what induced you to take charge of such a little doll as that? Where did you pick her up?
I did not pick her up. She was left on my hands.
Why, I suppose you have a governess for her? I saw a person with her just now. Is she gone? Oh, no, there she is, still behind the window curtain. You should hear Mamma on the chapter of governesses. Mary and I have had, I should think, a dozen, at least in our day. Half of them detestable and the rest ridiculous, and all incubi, were they not, Mamma?
Did you speak, my own?
We were speaking on the subject of governesses.
My dearest, don't mention governesses. The word makes me nervous. I have suffered a martyrdom from their incompetency and caprice. I thank heaven I have now done with them.
I noticed her. I'm a judge of physiognomy, and in hers, I see all the faults of her class.
Indeed. Why did you not come and speak to me in the room?
I did not wish to disturb you. You seemed engaged, sir.
What have you been doing during my absence?
Nothing at all, sir. Teaching Adele, as usual.
And getting a good deal paler than you were, as I saw at first sight. What is the matter? Did you take any cold that night you half drowned me?
Not the least.
Return to the drawing room. You were deserting too early.
I'm tired, sir.
And a little depressed.
I am not depressed.
But I affirm that you are. So much depressed that a few more words would bring tears to your eyes. Indeed, they are there now, shining and swimming.
I beg your pardon, sir.
What is it?
A Mr. Richard Mason from Spanish Town is here to see you, sir.
Mason. Spanish Town.
Should I show him in, sir?
Take him to the library and tell him I will be there presently.
Very good, sir.
Are you ill, sir?
I wish I were in a quiet island with only you, and trouble and danger and hideous recollections removed from me.
Can I help you, sir?
Jane, if aid is wanted, I'll seek it at your hands. I promise you that. If all these people came in a body and spat at me, what would you do, Jane?
Turn them out of the room, sir, if I could.
But if I were to go to them, and they only looked at me coldly and whispered sneeringly amongst each other and then dropped off and left me one by one, what then? Would you go with them?
I should stay with you.
To comfort me?
Yes, sir, to comfort you. As well as I could.
Good night, my Miss Eyre.
What?
Someone being
All of
attacked?
this screaming
Someone
about?
Where is Mr. Rochester? I couldn't find him in his bed.
Here, be composed, all of you. I'm coming.
What awful event has taken place? Speak, let us know the worst at once.
A servant has had a nightmare, that is all. She's an excitable, nervous person. She constructed her dream into an apparition or something of that sort, no doubt, and has taken a fit with fright. Now then, I must see you all back to your rooms, for till the house is settled, she cannot be looked after. Gentlemen, have the goodness to set the ladies the example. Miss Ingram, I am sure you will not fail in evincing superiority to idle terrors.
Am I needed?
Are you up and dressed?
Yes, sir.
Then come out quickly. You don't turn sick at the sight of blood.
I think I shall not. I have never been tried yet.
Come this way. Take your time and make no noise.
Sir, how did this...
There's no time for questions, Jane.
Is there immediate danger?
No, a mere scratch. Don't be so overcome, man. Bear up. I'll fetch a surgeon for you now myself. You'll be able to be removed by morning, I hope. Jane, I shall have to leave you in this room with this gentleman for an hour, or perhaps 2 hours. You will sponge the blood as I do, when it returns. If he feels faint, you will put the glass of water on that stand to his lips, and these salts to his nose. You will not speak to him on any pretext, and, Richard, it will be at the peril of your life if you speak to her. Open your lips, agitate yourself, and I'll not answer for the consequences. Now, Carter, be on the alert. I give you but half an hour for dressing the wound, fastening the bandages, getting the patient downstairs and all.
But is he fit to move, sir?
No doubt of it. It is nothing serious. He is nervous. His spirits must be kept up. Come, set to work.
Now, my good fellow, how are you?
She's done for me, I fear.
Not a whit. Courage. This day fortnight you'll hardly be a pin the worse for it. You've lost a little blood, that's all. Carter, assure him there's no danger.
I can do that conscientiously. Only I wish I could have got here sooner. He would not have bled so much. But how is this? The flesh on the shoulder is torn as well as cut. This wound was not done with a knife. There have been teeth here.
She bit me. She wounded me like a tigress when Rochester got the knife from her.
You should not have yielded. You should have grappled with her at once.
But under such circumstances, what could one do? Oh, it was frightful. I did not expect it. She looked so quiet at first.
I warned you. I said, be on your guard when you go near her. Besides, you might have waited till tomorrow and had me with you. It was mere folly to attempt the interview tonight, and alone.
I thought I could have done some good.
You thought.
She sucked the blood. She said she drained my heart.
Yes, it makes me impatient to hear you. But, however, you have suffered, and are likely to suffer enough for not taking my advice. So I'll say no more. Carter, hurry! The sun will soon rise, and I must have him off.
Directly, sir. The shoulder is just bandaged. I must look to this other wound in the arm. She has had her teeth here too, I think.
I wish I could forget it.
You will when you are out of the country. When you get back to Spanish Town, you may think of her as dead and buried. Or rather, you need not think of her at all.
Let her be taken care of. Let her be treated as tenderly as may be. Let her...
I do my best, and have done it, and will do it.
Will Grace Poole still live here, sir?
Oh, yes. Don't trouble your head about her. Put the thing out of your thoughts.
Is the danger you apprehended last night gone by now, sir?
I cannot vouch for that till Mason is out of England, nor even then. To live for me, Jane, is to stand on a crater crust which may crack open and spew fire any day.
Tell him to be cautious, sir. Let him know what you fear, and show him how you avert the danger.
If I could do that, Jane, where would the danger be? Annihilated in a moment. Ever since I have known Mason, I have only had to say to him, do that, and the thing has been done. But I cannot give him orders in this case. I cannot say, beware of harming me, Richard. For it is imperative that I should keep him ignorant that harm to me is possible. Now you look puzzled, and I will puzzle you further. You are my little friend, are you not?
I enjoy your company, sir.
Precisely. I see you do. I see genuine contentment in your gait and mien, your eye and face when you are helping me and pleasing me, working for me and with me in, as you characteristically say, all that is right. For if I bid you to do what you thought wrong, there would be no light-footed running, no neat-handed alacrity, no lively glance and animated complexion. My friend would then turn to me quiet and pale and would say, no, sir, that is impossible. I cannot do it, because it is wrong, and would become immutable as a fixed star. You too have power over me, and may injure me. Yet I dare not show you where I am vulnerable, lest, faithful and friendly as you are, you should transfix me at once.
If you have no more to fear from Mr. Mason than you have from me, sir, you are very safe.
God grant it may be so. Here, Jane, is an arbour. Sit down. Little friend, you have noticed my tender penchant for Miss Ingram. Don't you think if I married her, she would regenerate me with a vengeance? The night before I am married, I am sure I shall not be able to sleep. Will you promise to sit up with me, to bear me company? To you I can talk of my lovely one. For now you have seen her, and know her.
Yes, sir.
She's a rare one, is she not, Jane?
Miss Eyre, I couldn't find you in your room. A coachman came to collect you, and he asked me to give you this letter.
I'll need a leave of absence for a week or two.
What to do? Where to go?
To Gateshead. To visit my Aunt Reed, who is very sick.
You always said you had no relations.
None that would own me, sir. Mr. Reed is dead, and his wife cast me off.
And what good can you do her? Nonsense, Jane. I would never think of running 100 miles to see an old lady who will perhaps be dead before you reach her. Besides, you say she cast you off.
Yes, sir, but that is long ago, and when her circumstances were very different. I could not be easy to neglect her wishes now.
Promise me you will only stay a week.
I had better not pass my word. I might be obliged to break it.
When do you wish to go?
I must pack a bag now. Leave straight away.
Well, you must have some money. You can't travel without money, and I dare say you have not much. I have given you no salary yet. How much have you in the world, Jane?
5 shillings, sir. I'm owed £5.
Better not give you all now. You would perhaps stay away 3 months if you had £5. There are 10 more shillings. Is it not plenty?
Yes, sir. And now I may as well mention another matter of business to you, while I have the opportunity.
Matter of business? I'm curious to hear it.
You have as good as informed me, sir, that you are going shortly to be married.
Yes. What then?
In that case, sir, Adele ought to go to school. I'm sure you will perceive the necessity of it.
To get her out of my bride's way, who might otherwise walk over her rather too emphatically. There's sense in the suggestion, not a doubt of it. Adele, as you say, must go to school. And you, of course, must march straight to the devil?
I should hope not, sir. Unless it is the devil who answers my advertisement.
Nonsense. I will find a situation for you.
Only if you promise me Adele and I shall be out of the house before your bride enters it.
Very well. I'll pledge my word on it.
Farewell, Mr. Rochester. For the present.
Farewell, Miss Eyre. For the present.
Is this Jane Eyre?
Yes, Aunt Reed. You sent for me, and I am here. And it is my intention to stay till I see how you get on.
Oh, of course. You have seen my daughters?
Yes.
Well, you may tell them. I wish you to stay till I can talk some things over with you I have on my mind. Tonight, it is too late, and I have a difficulty in recalling them. But there was something I wish to say. Let me see. Oh, sit up. Don't annoy me with holding the clothes fast. Are you Jane Eyre?
I am Jane Eyre.
I have had more trouble with that child than anyone would believe. Such a burden to be left on my hands, and so much annoyance has she caused me, daily and hourly, with her incomprehensible disposition, and her sudden starts of temper, and her continual, unnatural watchings of one's movements. I declare, she talked to me once like something mad, or like a fiend. No child ever spoke or looked as she did. I was glad to get her away from the house. What did they do with her at Lowood? The fever broke out there, and many of the pupils died. She, however, did not die. But I said she did. I wish she had died.
A strange wish, Mrs. Reed. Why do you hate her so?
I had a dislike to her mother always, for she was my husband's only sister, and a great favourite with him. He opposed the family's disowning her when she made her low marriage, and when news came of her death, he wept like a simpleton. He would send for the baby, though I entreated him rather to put it out to nurse and pay for its maintenance. I hated it the first time I set my eyes on it. A sickly, whining, pining thing. It would wail in its cradle all night long, not screaming heartily like any other child, but whimpering and moaning. Reed pitied it, and he used to nurse it and notice it as if it had been his own, more, indeed, than he ever noticed his own at that age.
Aunt Reed.
Who calls me aunt? You are not one of the Gibsons, and yet I know you. That face, and the eyes and forehead are quite familiar to me. You are like... why, you are like Jane Eyre. I am very ill, I know. I was trying to turn myself a few minutes since, and find I cannot move a limb. It is as well I should ease my mind before I die. What we think little of in health burdens us at such an hour as the present is to me. Is the nurse here? Is there no one else here in the Red Room but you?
We are alone, Aunt.
Well, I have twice done you a wrong, which I regret now. One was in breaking the promise which I gave my husband to bring you up as my own child. The other, after all, it is of no great importance. Perhaps, and then I may get better, and to humble myself so to her is painful. Well, I must get it over. Eternity is before me. I had better tell her. Go to my dressing case, open it, and take out a letter you will see there. Read the letter aloud.
Madam, will you have the goodness to send me the address of my niece Jane Eyre? And to tell me how she is. It is my intention to write shortly and desire her to come to me. Providence has blessed my endeavours to secure a competency, and as I am unmarried and childless, I wish to adopt her during my life, and bequeath her at my death whatever I may have to leave. I am, madam, John Eyre, Madeira. This was dated 3 years ago. Why am I hearing of this now?
Because I disliked you too fixedly and thoroughly ever to let a hand in lifting you to prosperity. I could not forget your conduct to me. Jane, the fury with which you once turned on me, the tone in which you declared you abhorred me the worst of anybody in the world, the unchildlike look and voice with which you affirmed that the very thought of me made you sick, and asserted that I had treated you with miserable cruelty.
If you could but be persuaded to think no more of it, Aunt, and to regard me with kindness and forgiveness. Forgive me or loathe me, as you will. You have my full and free forgiveness. Ask now for God's, and be at peace.
What the deuce have you done with yourself this last month?
I've been with my aunt, sir, who is dead.
A true Janian reply. If I dared, I'd touch you to see if you are substance or shadow or elf. Absent from me a whole month, and forgetting me quite, I'll be sworn.
I'm strangely glad to get back again to you, and wherever you are is my only home.
You must have become in some degree attached to the house. You who have an eye for natural beauties and a good deal of the organ of adhesiveness.
I am attached to it indeed, and to Adele, and to Mrs. Fairfax, and, well, to you, sir.
Pity. It is always the way of events in this life. No sooner have you got settled in a pleasant resting place than a voice calls out to you to rise and move on, for the hour of repose is expired.
Then you are going to be married, sir?
Very soon, my Miss Eyre. In a month's time I am to be a bridegroom, and you will undertake the education of the 5 daughters of Miss Dionysius O'Gall of Bitternut Lodge, Connaught, Ireland. You'll like Ireland, I think. They're such warm-hearted people there, they say.
Is it a long way off, sir?
From what, Jane?
From England, from Thornfield, and...
Well?
From you, sir.
It is a long way to Ireland, Jane. And I am sorry to send my little friend on such weary travels. But if I can't do better, how is it to be helped? Are you anything akin to me, do you think, Jane? Because I sometimes have a queer feeling with regard to you, especially when you are near me, as now. It is as if I had a string somewhere under my left ribs, tightly and inextricably knotted to a similar string situated in the corresponding quarter of your little frame. And if that boisterous channel and 200 miles or so of land come broad between us, I'm afraid that cord of communion will be snapped, and then I've a nervous notion I should take to bleeding inwardly. As for you, you'd forget me.
That I never should, sir. You know, I grieve to leave Thornfield. I love Thornfield, I love it. Because I have lived in it a full and delightful life, momentarily at least. I've not been trampled on, I've not been petrified, I've not been buried with inferior minds, excluded from every glimpse of communion with what is bright and energetic and high. I have talked face to face with what I reverence, with what I delight in, with an original, a vigorous and expanded mind. I have known you, Mr. Rochester, and it strikes me with terror and anguish to feel I absolutely must be torn from you forever. I see the necessity of departure, and it is like looking at the necessity of death.
Where do you see the necessity?
In the shape of Miss Ingram, your bride.
My bride? What bride? I have no bride.
But you will have.
Yes, I will. I will.
Then I must go.
No. You must stay.
I tell you, I must go. Do you think I can stay to become nothing to you? Do you think I am an automaton? A machine without feelings? And can bear to have my morsel of bread snatched from my lips, and my drop of living water dashed from my cup? Do you think, because I am poor, obscure, plain, and little, I am soulless and heartless? You think wrong. I have as much soul as you, and full as much heart. And if God has gifted me with some beauty and much wealth, I should have made it as hard for you to leave me as it is now for me to leave you. I am not talking to you now through the medium of custom and conventionalities, nor even of mortal flesh. It is my spirit that addresses your spirit, just as if both had passed through the grave, and we stood at God's feet, equal, as we are.
So as we are, I offer you my hand, my heart, and a share of all my possessions.
Please don't mock me.
Am I a liar in your eyes? Little skeptic, you shall be convinced. What love have I for Miss Ingram? None, and that you know. What love has she for me? None, as I have taken pains to prove. I caused a rumour to reach her that my fortune was not a third of what was supposed. And after that I presented myself to see the result. It was coldness from both her and her mother. I could not marry Miss Ingram. You strange, you almost unearthly thing I love as my own flesh. You, poor and obscure and small and plain as you are, I entreat to accept me as a husband.
Are you in earnest? Do you truly love me? Do you sincerely wish me to be your wife?
I do. And if an oath is necessary to satisfy you, I swear it.
Then, sir...
Edward,
I will marry you.
God pardon me. And man meddle not with me. I have her, and will hold her.
I require and charge you both, as ye will answer at the dreadful day of judgment, when the secrets of all hearts shall be disclosed, that if either of you know any impediment why ye may not lawfully be joined together in matrimony, ye do now confess it. Be ye well assured that so many as are coupled together otherwise than God's word doth allow are not joined together by God. Neither is their matrimony lawful. Wilt thou have this woman for thy wedded wife?
The marriage cannot go on. I declare the existence of an impediment.
Proceed.
I cannot proceed. Not without some investigation into what has been asserted, and evidence of its truth or falsehood.
The ceremony is quite broken off. I'm in a condition to prove my allegation. An insuperable impediment to this marriage exists.
What was the nature of this impediment?
It simply consists in the existence of a previous marriage. Mr. Rochester has a wife now living.
Who are you?
Mr. Briggs, sir.
And you would thrust a wife on me?
I have a document and a witness to the fact, whose testimony even you, sir, will scarcely controvert.
That, if a genuine document, may prove that I have been married. But it does not prove that the woman mentioned therein as my wife is still living.
Bertha Mason was living 3 months ago. She is now living at Thornfield Hall. I saw her there last April. I am her brother.
At Thornfield Hall? Impossible. I'm an old resident in this neighborhood, sir, and I never heard of a Mrs. Rochester at Thornfield Hall.
No, by heaven. I took care that none should hear of it, or of her under that name. Close your book. There will be no wedding today. Instead, I invite you all to join me upstairs to meet Grace Poole's patient, my wife. You shall see what sort of a being I was cheated into espousing, and judge whether or not I had the right to break the compact, and seek sympathy with something at least human. This girl knew no more than you, clergyman, of the disgusting secret. She thought all was fair and legal, and never dreamt she was going to be entrapped into a feigned union with a defrauded wretch, already bound to a bad, mad, and embruted partner. Come, all of you, follow! Well, Jane, not a word of reproach, nothing bitter, nothing poignant, nothing to cut a feeling or sting a passion. You stand quietly where I have placed you, and regard me with a weary, passive look.
All is changed about me, sir. I must change too, there is no doubt of that. And to avoid fluctuations of feeling, and continual combats with recollections and associations, there is only one way. Adele must have a new governess, sir.
Adele will go to school. I have settled that already. Nor do I mean to torment you with the hideous associations and recollections of Thornfield Hall, this accursed place, this tent of a Khan, this insolent vault offering the ghastliness of living death to the light of the open sky, this narrow stone hell with its one real fiend, worse than a legion of such as we imagine. Jane, you shall not stay here, nor will I.
I must leave you.
For how long, Jane? For a few minutes, while you smooth your hair, which is somewhat dishevelled, and bathe your face, which looks feverish?
I must leave Adele and Thornfield. I must part with you for my whole life. I must begin a new existence among strange faces and strange scenes.
Of course. I told you you should. I pass over the madness about parting from me. You mean you must become a part of me. As to the new existence, it is all right. You shall yet be my wife. I am not married. You shall be Mrs. Rochester, both virtually and nominally. I shall keep only to you, so long as you and I live. You shall go to a place I have in the south of France, a whitewashed villa on the shores of the Mediterranean. There you shall live a happy and guarded and most innocent life. Never fear that I wish to lure you into error, to make you my mistress. Why did you shake your head? Jane, you must be reasonable, or in truth I shall again become frantic.
Sir, your wife is living. That is a fact, acknowledged this morning by yourself. If I lived with you as you desire, I should then be your mistress. To say otherwise is sophistical, is false.
I forget you know nothing of the character of that woman, of the circumstances attending my infernal union with her. Oh, I'm certain you will agree with me in opinion when you know all that I know. Can you listen to me?
Yes, sir.
I was sent out to Jamaica to espouse a bride already courted for me. I found her a fine woman in the style of Blanche Ingram, tall, dark, and majestic. Her family showed her to me in parties, splendidly dressed. I seldom saw her alone. I was dazzled, stimulated, my senses were excited, and being ignorant, raw, and inexperienced, I thought that I loved her. I married her, gross, grovelling, mole-eyed blockhead that I was. When I found that I could not pass a single evening, nor even a single hour of the day with her in comfort, that kindly conversation could not be sustained between us, because whatever topic I started immediately received from her a turn at once coarse and trite, perverse and imbecile. When I perceived that I should never have a quiet or settled household, because no servant would bear the continued outbreaks of her violent and unreasonable temper, or the vexations of her absurd, contradictory, exacting orders, even then I restrained myself. I eschewed upbraiding, I curtailed remonstrance, I tried to devour my repentance and disgust in secret. I repressed the deep antipathy I felt. Oh, what necessity is there to dwell on the past when the present is so much surer, the future so much brighter? Why are you silent, Jane? Do you understand what I want of you?
I will not be yours.
Jane! Do you mean to go one way in the world and to let me go another?
I do.
Oh, Jane, this is bitter. This is wicked. It would not be wicked to love me.
It would be to obey you.
One instant, Jane. Give one glance to my horrible life when you are gone. All happiness will be torn away with you. What then is left? For a wife I have but the maniac upstairs. As well might you refer me to some corpse in yonder churchyard. What shall I do, Jane? Where turn for a companion and for some hope?
Do as I do. Trust in God and yourself. Believe in heaven. Hope to meet again there. Mr. Rochester, I no more assign this fate to you than I grasp at it for myself. We were born to strive and endure, you as well as I. Do so. You will forget me before I forget you.
You make me a liar by such language. You sully my honor. I declared I could not change. You tell me to my face I shall change soon. And what a distortion in your judgment, what a perversity in your ideas is proved by your conduct. Is it better to drive a fellow creature to despair than to transgress a mere human law, no man being injured by the breach? For you have neither relatives nor acquaintances whom you need fear to offend by living with me.
God bless you, my dear master. God keep you from harm and wrong, direct you, solace you, reward you well for your past kindness to me.
Jane!
What can I get for you today, miss? I have a fresh loaf of rye just finished baking this morning. Only a farthing a slice.
No, thank you. Might I rest in that chair a while?
Suit yourself.
Are there any dressmakers or plain workwomen in the village?
2 or 3, quite as many as there is employment for.
Do you know of any neighbourhood where a servant is wanted?
I couldn't say for sure. Good morning. Fancy buying a slice of rye?
Will you give me a roll? for this handkerchief?
No, I don't sell stuff that way.
Please, half a piece of stale cake.
No, but besides, how do I know where you got that handkerchief?
My gloves, then.
No. What could I do with them? Be off with you now.
Excuse me. What is the chief trade in this place? What do most people do here?
Farm labourers. A good deal of them work for Mr. Oliver's needle factory and at the foundry.
Does this Mr. Oliver employ women?
Nay, it's men's work.
What do the women do?
Some do one thing, some do another. Poor folk get on the best they can. Child, where you going?
To feed the pigs, Father.
Will you give me that?
Father!
What's all the fuss?
This woman wants me to give her the pig's porridge.
Give it to her if she's a beggar. Pigs don't want it.
What do you want?
Is a servant wanted here?
No, we do not keep a servant here.
Can you tell me where I can get employment of any kind? I'm a stranger, without acquaintance in this place. I want some work. No matter what.
I'm sorry, but I can give you no information.
Is this the parsonage?
Yes.
Is the clergyman in?
No.
Will he be in soon?
No, he's gone from home.
Is he a great distance away?
Not so far. 3 miles or so. He's been called away by the sudden death of his father. I expect he'll stay in Marsh End for at least another fortnight.
Is there any lady in this house?
None except myself. I'm the housekeeper. Now I've answered your questions, I suggest you leave.
Is there a country where they speak that way?
Yes, Hannah. A far larger country than England, where they talk in no other way.
And if either of you went there, you could understand what they say, I guess?
We could probably tell something of what they said, but not all, for we are not as clever as you think us, Hannah. We don't speak German, and we can't read it without a dictionary to help us.
And what good does it do you?
We need to teach it sometimes. Or at least the elements, as they say. And then we shall get more money than we do now.
Very like. But give over your studying. You've done enough for tonight.
Oh, I think we have. At least I'm tired. Mary, are you?
Mortally. After all, it's tough work chipping away at a language with no master but a lexicon.
It is. Especially with such a language as this crabbed but glorious Deutsch. I wonder when St. John will come home.
Surely he will not be long now. It is just 10. It rains fast, Hannah. You have the goodness to look at the fire in the parlour.
Yes, Miss Mary. It's so lonesome now with your father's chair empty and sitting back into a corner. But we needn't wish him here. He's in a better place now.
You say he never mentioned us.
Don't think of it now, Miss Diana. You'll want your supper soon, and so will Master St. John when he comes in.
What do you want?
May I speak to your mistresses?
You better tell me what you have to say to them. Where'd you come from?
I am a stranger.
What is your business here at this hour?
I want a night's shelter in an outhouse. Anywhere. And a morsel of bread to eat.
I'll give you a piece of bread, but we can't take in a vagrant to lodge. It isn't likely.
Do let me speak to your mistresses.
No, not I. What can they do for you? You should not be roving about now. It looks very ill outside.
But where shall I go if you drive me away? What shall I do?
Oh, I'll warrant you know where to go and what to do. Mind you don't do wrong, that's all. Here's a penny. Now go.
A penny cannot feed me. And I have no strength to go farther. Don't shut the door. Oh, don't. For God's sake!
I must. The rain is driving in.
Tell the young ladies. Let me see them.
Indeed I will not. You are not what you ought to be, or you wouldn't make such a noise. Move off.
But I must die if I'm turned away.
Not you. I'm afraid you have an ill plan that brings you about folks' houses at this time of night. If you've any followers, housebreakers or such like anywhere near, you may tell them we are not by ourselves in the house. We have a gentleman, and dogs, and guns.
I can but die. I believe in God. Let me try to wait his will. It's time.
All men must die, but all are not condemned to meet a lingering and premature doom, such as yours would be if you perished here of want.
Oh, what speaks?
Is it you, Master St. John?
Yes, yes, open quickly.
Well, how wet and cold you must be. Such a wild night as it is. Come in. Your sisters are quite uneasy about you. And I believe there are bad folks about. There's been a beggar woman. I declare she's not gone yet. Laid down there. Get up! For shame! Move off, I say.
Hush, Hannah. I have a word to say to the woman. You have done your duty in excluding. Now let me do mine in admitting her. I was near and listened to both you and her. I think this is a peculiar case. I must at least examine into it. Young woman, rise, and pass before me into the house.
St. John, who is it?
I cannot tell. I found her at the door.
She does look white.
As white as clay or death. She will fall. Let her sit. Perhaps a little water would restore her. Hannah, fetch some. But she is worn to nothing. How very thin and how very bloodless.
A mere spectre.
Is she ill or just famished?
Famished, I think. Hannah, is that milk? Give it to me. And a piece of bread.
Try to eat.
Yes. Try.
Not too much at first. Restrain her. She has had enough.
A little more, St. John. Look at the avidity in her eyes.
No more at present, sister. Try if she can speak now. Ask her name.
My name is Jane Elliot.
And where do you live? Where are your friends? Can we send for anyone you know?
No.
What account can you give yourself?
Sir, I can give no details tonight.
But what do you expect me to do for you?
Nothing.
Do you mean that we have now given you what aid you require, and that we may dismiss you to the moor and the rainy night?
I will trust you. If I were a masterless and stray dog, I know that you would not turn me from your hearth tonight. As it is, I really have no fear. Do with me and for me as you like. But excuse me for much discourse. My breath is short. I feel a spasm when I speak.
Hannah, let her sit there at present, and ask her no questions. In 10 minutes more, give her the remainder of that milk and bread. Mary and Diana, let us go into the parlour and talk the matter over.
It is very well we took her in.
Yes, she would certainly have been found dead at the door in the morning had she been left out all night. I wonder what she has gone through.
Strange hardships, I imagine. Poor emaciated, pallid wanderer.
She is not an uneducated person, I should think. By her manner of speaking, her accent was quite pure, and the clothes she took off, though splashed and wet, were a little worn and fine.
She has a peculiar face. Fleshless and haggard as it is, I rather like it. And when in good health and animated, I can fancy her physiognomy would be agreeable.
Rather an unusual physiognomy. Certainly not indicative of vulgarity or degradation.
Far otherwise, to speak truth, St. John. My heart rather warms to the poor little soul. I wish we may be able to benefit her permanently.
That is hardly likely. You will find she is some young lady who has had a misunderstanding with her friends, and has probably injudiciously left them. We may perhaps succeed in restoring her to them, if she is not obstinate. but I trace lines of force in her face, which makes me skeptical of her tractability. She looked sensible, but not all that handsome.
She is so ill, St. John.
Ill or well, she would always be plain. The grace and harmony of beauty are quite wanting in those features.
What? You have got up? You are better, then. You may sit you down in my chair, if you will. Did you ever go begging before you came here?
You are mistaking me in supposing me a beggar. I am no beggar, any more than yourself or your young ladies.
I don't understand that. You've no house, no brass, I guess?
The want of house or brass, by which I suppose you mean money, does not make a beggar in your sense of the word.
Are you book-learned?
Yes, very.
But you've never been to a boarding school?
I was at a boarding school for 8 years.
Why can't you keep for yourself, then?
I have kept myself, and, I trust, shall keep myself again.
You've never been used to servants' work. I can see by your hands.
No, you are wrong. But tell me the name of the house where we are.
Some calls it Marsh End, and some calls it Moor House.
And the gentleman who lives here?
Nay, he doesn't live here. He's only staying a while. When he is at home, he's in his own parish at Morton.
That village, a few miles off?
Aye.
And what is he?
He is a parson.
This, then, was his father's residence?
Aye. I was quite mistaken in my thoughts of you. But there are so many cheats about. You must forgive me. Please don't think too harshly of me.
But I do think harshly of you, and I'll tell you why. Not so much because you refused to give me shelter, or regarded me as an impostor, as because you just now made it a species of reproach that I had no brass, and no house. Some of the best people that ever lived have been as destitute as I am. And if you are a Christian, you ought not to consider poverty a crime.
Mr. St. John tells me so too, and I see I was wrong. But I've a different opinion of you now. You look like a downright decent creature.
That will do. I forgive you now.
Eat that now. You must be hungry. Hannah says you have had nothing but some gruel since breakfast.
You are very hungry.
I am, sir.
It is well for you that a low fever has forced you to abstain for the last 3 days. There would have been danger in yielding to the cravings of your appetite at first. Now you may eat, though still not immoderately.
I trust I shall not eat long at your expense, sir.
No. When you have indicated to us the residence of your friends, we can write to them, and you may be restored to home.
That I must plainly tell you is out of my power to do, being absolutely without home and without friends.
Do you mean to say that you are completely isolated from every connection?
I do. Not a tie links me to any living thing. Not a claim do I possess to admittance under any roof in England.
You have never been married. You're a spinster.
Why, she can't be above 17 or 18 years old, St. John.
I am near 19. But I am not married, no.
Where did you last reside?
The name of the place where, and of the person with whom I lived, is my secret.
Which, if you like, you have, in my opinion, a right to keep both from St. John and every other questioner.
Yet if I know nothing about you or your history, I cannot help you. And you need help, do you not?
I need it, and I seek it so far, sir, that some true philanthropist will put me in the way of getting work which I can do, and the remuneration for which will keep me, if but in the barest necessities of life.
I know not whether I am a true philanthropist, yet I am willing to aid you to the utmost of my power in a purpose so honest. First then, tell me what you have been accustomed to do and what you can do.
I am an orphan, the daughter of a clergyman. My parents died before I could know them. I was brought up a dependent, educated in a charitable institution. I will even tell you the name of the establishment where I passed 6 years as a pupil and 2 as a teacher. Lowood Orphan Asylum, Shire. You will have heard of it, Mr. Rivers? The Reverend Robert Brocklehurst is the treasurer.
I have heard of Mr. Brocklehurst, and I have seen the school.
I left Lowood nearly a year since to become a private governess. I obtained a good situation and was happy. This place I was obliged to leave 4 days before I came here. The reason of my departure I cannot and ought not to explain. It would be useless, dangerous, and would sound incredible. No blame attached to me. I am as free from culpability as any one of you three. Miserable I am, and must be for a time, for the catastrophe which drove me from a house I had found a paradise was of a strange and direful nature. I observed but 2 points in planning my departure: speed, secrecy. To secure these, I had to leave behind me everything I possessed except a small parcel, which, in my hurry and trouble of mind, I forgot to take out of the coach that brought me to Whitcross. To this neighbourhood, then, I came, quite destitute. I slept 2 nights in the open air, and wandered about 2 days without crossing a threshold. But twice in that space of time did I taste food, and it was when brought by hunger, exhaustion, and despair, almost to the last gasp, that you, Mr. Rivers, forbade me to perish of want at your door, took me under the shelter of your roof. I know all your sisters have done for me since, for I have not been insensible during my seeming torpor, and I owe to their spontaneous, genuine, genial compassion as large a debt as to your evangelical charity.
Don't make her talk, St. John. Miss Elliot.
Ah, yes?
You said your name was Miss Elliot?
I did say so. And it is the name by which I think it expedient to be called at present. But it is not my real name, and when I hear it, it sounds a bit strange to me.
Your real name you will not give?
I fear discovery above all things, and whatever disclosure would lead to it, I avoid.
You are quite right, I'm sure. Now do, brother, let her be at peace for a while.
You would not like to be long dependent on our hospitality. You would wish, I see, to dispense as soon as may be with my sister's compassion, and, above all, with my charity. I am quite sensible of the distinction drawn, nor do I resent it. It is just, you desire to be independent of us?
I do. I've already said so. Show me how to work or how to seek work. That is all I now ask. Then let me go. If it be but to the meanest cottage, but till then, allow me to stay here. I dread another essay of horrors, of homeless destitution.
My sisters, you see, have a pleasure in keeping you as they would have a pleasure in keeping and cherishing a half-frozen bird. Some wintry wind might have driven through their casement. I feel more inclination to put you in the way of keeping yourself, and shall endeavour to do so. But observe, my sphere is narrow. I am but the incumbent of a poor country parish. My aid must be of the humblest sort. And if you are inclined to despise the day of small things, seek some more efficient succour than such as I can offer.
She has already said that she is willing to do anything honest she can do, and you know, St. John, she has no choice of helpers. She's forced to put up with such crusty people as you.
I will be a dressmaker. I will be a plain workwoman. I will be a servant, a nurse girl, if no better.
Right. If such is your spirit, I promise to aid you in my own time and way. You have a question to ask of me?
Yes. I wish to know whether you have heard of any service I can offer myself to undertake.
I found or devised something for you 3 weeks ago, but as you seemed both useful and happy here, as my sisters had evidently become attached to you, and your society gave them unusual pleasure, I deemed it inexpedient to break in on your mutual comfort till their approaching departure from Marsh End should render yours necessary.
And they will go in 3 days now?
Yes, and when they go, I shall return to the parsonage at Morton. Hannah will accompany me, and this old house will be shut up.
What is the employment you had in view, Mr. Rivers? I hope this delay will not have increased the difficulty of securing it.
Oh, no. Since it is an employment which only depends on me to give, and you to accept. You need be in no hurry to hear. Let me frankly tell you I have nothing eligible or profitable to suggest. Before I explain, recall, if you please, my notice, clearly given, that if I helped you, it must be as the blind man would help the lame. I am poor, for I find that when I have paid my father's debts, all the patrimony remaining to me will be this crumbling grange, the row of scathed firs behind you, and the patch of moorish soil, with the yew trees and holly bushes in front. I am obscure. Rivers is an old name. But of the 3 sole descendants of the race, 2 earn the dependent's crust among strangers, and the 3rd considers himself an alien from his native country, not only for life, but in death. Yes, and deems, and is bound to deem himself honoured by the lot, and aspires but after the day when the cross of separation from fleshly ties shall be laid on his shoulders, and when the head of that church militant, of whose humblest members he is one, shall give the word, "Rise, follow me," and since I am myself poor and obscure, I can offer you but a service of poverty and obscurity. You may even think it degrading, for I see now your habits have been what the world calls refined. Your tastes lean to the ideal, and your society has at least been amongst the educated. But I consider that no service degrades which can better our race. I hold that the more arid and unreclaimed the soil where the Christian labourer's task of tillage is appointed him, the scantier the meed his toil brings, the higher the honour. His, under such circumstances, is the destiny of the pioneer, and the first pioneers of the gospel were the apostles. Their captain was Jesus, the Redeemer himself.
Well? Proceed.
I believe you will accept the post I offer you and hold it for a while. Not permanently, though, any more than I could permanently keep the narrow and narrowing, the tranquil hidden office of English country incumbent. For in your nature is an alloy as detrimental to repose as that in mine, though of a different kind.
Do explain.
I will, and you shall hear how poor the proposal is, how trivial, how cramping. I shall not stay long at Morton, now that my father is dead, and that I am my own master. I shall leave the place probably in the course of a 12-month. But while I do stay, I will exert myself to the utmost for its improvement. Morton, when I came to it 2 years ago, had no school. Children of the poor were excluded from every hope of progress. I established one for boys. I mean now to open a second school for girls. I have hired a building for the purpose, with a cottage of 2 rooms attached to it for the mistress's house. Her salary will be £30 a year. Her house is already furnished, very simply, but sufficiently, by the kindness of a lady, Miss Oliver, the only daughter of the sole rich man in my parish, Mr. Oliver, the proprietor of a needle factory and iron foundry in the valley. The same lady pays for the education and clothing of an orphan from the workhouse, on condition that she shall aid the mistress in such menial offices connected with her own house and the school, as her occupation of teaching will prevent her having time to discharge in person. Will you be this mistress?
I thank you for the proposal, Mr. Rivers, and I accept it with all my heart.
Have you found your first day's work harder than you expected?
Oh no, on the contrary. I think in time I shall get on with my scholars very well.
But perhaps your accommodations, your cottage, your furniture have disappointed your expectations? They are, in truth, scanty enough.
My cottage is clean and weatherproof, my furniture sufficient and commodious. All I see has made me thankful, not despondent. I am not absolutely such a fool and sensualist as to regret the absence of a carpet, a sofa, a silver plate. Besides, 5 weeks ago, I had nothing. I was an outcast, a beggar, a vagrant. Now I have acquaintance, a home, a business. I wonder at the goodness of God, the generosity of my friends, the bounty of my lot. I do not repine.
But you feel solitude and oppression. The little house there behind you is dark and empty.
I have hardly had time to enjoy the sense of tranquillity, much less grow impatient under one of loneliness.
Very well. I hope you feel the content you express. At any rate, your good sense will tell you that it is too soon yet to yield to the vacillating fears of Lot's wife. What you had left before I saw you, of course I do not know. But I counsel you to resist firmly every temptation which would incline you to look back. Pursue your present career steadily, for some months at least.
It is what I mean to do.
It is hard work to control the workings of inclination and turn the bent of nature, but that it may be done I know from experience. God has given us, in measure, the power to make our own fate. And when our energies seem to demand a sustenance they cannot get, when our will strains after a path we may not follow, we need neither starve from inanition or stand still in despair. We have but to seek another nourishment for the mind, as strong as the forbidden food it longed to taste, and perhaps purer, and to hew out for the adventurous foot a road as direct and broad as the one fortune has blocked up against us, if rougher than it. A year ago I was myself intensely miserable, because I thought I had made a mistake in entering the ministry. Its uniform duties wearied me to death. I burnt for the more active life of the world, for the more exciting toils of a literacy career, for the destiny of an artist, author, orator, anything rather than that of a priest. Yes, the heart of a politician, of a soldier, of a votary of glory, a lover of renown, a luster after power, beat under my curate's surplice. I considered my life was so wretched it must be changed, or I must die. After a season of darkness and struggling, light broke and relief fell. My cramped existence all at once spread out to a plain without bounds. My powers heard a call from heaven to rise, gather their full strength, spread their wings, and mount beyond ken. God had an errand for me, to bear which afar, to deliver it well, skill and strength, courage and eloquence. The best qualifications of soldier, statesman, and orator were all needed, for these all center in the good missionary. A missionary I resolved to be. From that moment my state of mind changed. The fetters dissolved and dropped from every faculty, leaving nothing of bondage but its galling soreness, which time only can heal. My father indeed imposed the determination, but since his death I have not a legitimate obstacle to contend with. Some affairs settled, a successor for Morton provided, an entanglement or two of the feelings broken through or cut asunder, a last conflict with human weakness, in which I know I shall overcome, because I have vowed that I will overcome, and I leave Europe for the East.
Good evening, Mr. Rivers.
A lovely evening, but late for you to be out alone.
This afternoon Papa told me you had opened your school and that the new mistress was come, and so I put on my bonnet after tea and ran up the valley to see her. This is she?
It is.
Do you think you shall like Morton?
I hope I shall. I have many inducements to do so.
Did you find your scholars as attentive as you expected?
Quite.
Do you like your house?
Very much.
Have I furnished it nicely?
Very nicely indeed.
I shall come up and help you teach sometimes. It'll be a change for me to visit you now and then, and I like a change. Mr. Rivers, last night, or rather this morning, I was dancing till 2 o'clock. The regiment are stationed there since the riots, and the officers are the most agreeable men in the world. They put all our young knife grinders and scissor merchants to shame. Papa says you never come to see us now. You are quite a stranger at Vale Hall. He is alone this evening and not very well. Will you return with me and visit him?
It is not a seasonable hour to intrude on Mr. Oliver.
Not a seasonable hour, but I declare it is. It is just the hour when Papa most wants company, when the works are closed and he has no business to occupy him. Now, Mr. Rivers, do come. Why are you so very shy and so very sombre? I forgot! I am so giddy and thoughtless. Do excuse me. It had slipped my memory that you have good reason to be indisposed for joining in my chatter. Diana and Mary have left you to go work as governesses, and Morehouse is shut up, and you are so lonely. I am sure I pity you. Do come and see Papa.
Not tonight, Miss Rosamond. Not tonight.
Well, if you are so obstinate, I will leave you, for I dare not stay any longer. The dew begins to fall. Good evening.
Good evening.
She likes you, I'm sure. And her father respects you. Moreover, she's a sweet girl, rather thoughtless, but you would have sufficient thought for both yourself and her.
Does she like me?
Certainly, better than she likes anyone else.
Don't imagine such hard things. Fancy me yielding and melting as I am doing. Human love rising like a freshly opened fountain in my mind and overflowing with sweet inundation all the field I have so carefully and with such labour prepared, so assiduously sown with the seeds of good intentions, of self-denying plans, and now it is deluged with a nectarous flood, the young germs swamped, delicious poison cankering them. Now I see myself stretched on an ottoman in the drawing-room at Vale Hall, at my bride Rosamond Oliver's feet. She is talking to me with her sweet voice, gazing down on me with those eyes your skilful hand has copied so well, smiling at me with these coral lips. She is mine. I am hers. This present life and passing world suffice to me. Hush, say nothing. My heart is full of delight. My senses are entranced. It is strange that, while I love Rosamond Oliver so wildly, with all the intensity indeed of a first passion, the object of which is exquisitely beautiful, graceful, fascinating, I experience at the same time a calm, unwarped consciousness that she would not make me a good wife, that she is not the partner suited to me, that I should discover this within a year after marriage, and that to 12 months' rapture would succeed a lifetime of regret. This I know.
Strange indeed.
While something in me is acutely sensible to her charms, something else is as deeply impressed with her defects. They are such that she could sympathize in nothing I aspired to be, to cooperate in nothing I undertook. Rosamond a sufferer, a labourer, a female apostle. Rosamond a missionary's wife. No.
But you need not be a missionary. You might relinquish that scheme.
Relinquish? What? My vocation, my great work, my foundation laid on earth for a mansion in heaven. My hopes have been numbered in the band who have merged all ambitions in the glorious one of bettering their race, of carrying knowledge into the realms of ignorance, of substituting peace for war, freedom for bondage, religion for superstition, the hope of heaven for the fear of hell. Must I relinquish that? It is dearer than the blood in my veins. It is what I have to look forward to, and to live for.
And Miss Oliver? Are her disappointment and sorrow of no interest to you?
Miss Oliver is ever surrounded by suitors and flatterers. In less than a month my image will be effaced from her heart. She will forget me, and will marry, probably, someone who will make her far happier than I should do.
You trembled, and became flushed when Miss Oliver entered the schoolroom.
You are original and not timid. There is something brave in your spirit, as well as penetrating in your eye. But allow me to assure you that you partially misinterpret my emotions. You think them more profound and potent than they are. You give me a larger allowance of sympathy than I have a just claim to. When I colour, and when I shade before Miss Oliver, I do not pity myself. I scorn the weakness. I know it is ignoble, a mere fever of the flesh. Not, I declare, the convulsion of the soul. That is just as fixed as a rock, firm set in the depths of a restless sea. Know me to be what I am, a cold, hard man. You have taken my confidence by storm, and now it is much at your service. I am simply, in my original state, stripped of that blood-bleached robe with which Christianity covers human deformity. A cold, hard, ambitious man. Natural affection only, of all the sentiments, has permanent power over me. Reason and not feeling is my guide. My ambition is unlimited, my desire to rise higher, to do more than others, insatiable. I honor endurance, perseverance, industry, talent, because these are the means by which men achieve great ends and mount to lofty eminence. I watch your career with interest, because I consider you a specimen of a diligent, orderly, energetic woman, not because I deeply compassionate what you have gone through, or what you still suffer.
You would describe yourself as a mere pagan philosopher?
No. There is this difference between me and deistic philosophers. I believe, and I believe the gospel. You missed your epithet. I am not a pagan, but a Christian philosopher, a follower of the sect of Jesus. What is this?
What's the matter?
Nothing in the world. Good afternoon.
Mr. Rivers, any ill news? Has something happened?
No. How very easily alarmed you are. I shall sully the purity of your floor, but you must excuse me for once. I have had hard work to get here, I assure you. One drift took me up to the waist. Happily, the snow is quite soft yet.
But why are you come?
Rather an inhospitable question to put to a visitor, but since you ask it, I answer simply to have a little talk with you. I got tired of my mute books and empty rooms. Besides, since yesterday I have experienced the excitement of a person to whom a tale has been half told, and who is impatient to hear the sequel. Come nearer the fire. I spoke of my impatience to hear the sequel of a tale. On reflection, I find the matter will be better managed by my assuming the narrator's part, and converting you into a listener. Before commencing, it is but fair to warn you that the story will sound somewhat hackneyed in your ears. But stale details often regain a degree of freshness when they pass through new lips. For the rest, whether trite or novel, it is short.
I will listen.
20 years ago, a pure curate, never mind his name at this moment, fell in love with a rich man's daughter. She fell in love with him and married him, against the advice of all her friends, who consequently disowned her immediately after the wedding. Before 2 years passed, the rash pair were both dead, and laid quietly side by side under one slab. I have seen their grave. It formed part of the pavement of a huge churchyard surrounding the grim, soot-blacked old cathedral of an overgrown manufacturing town in Shire. They left a daughter, which, at its very birth, Charity received in her lap. Cold as that of the snowdrift I almost stuck fast in tonight. Charity carried the friendless thing to the house of its rich maternal relations. It was reared by an aunt-in-law, called, I come to names now, Mrs. Reed of Gateshead. You startle. Did you hear a noise? I dare say it is only a rat scrambling along the rafters of the adjoining schoolroom. It was a barn before I had it repaired and altered, and barns are generally haunted by rats. To proceed, Mrs. Reed kept the orphan 10 years. Whether it was happy or not with her, I cannot say, never having been told. But at the end of that time, she transferred it to a place you know, being no other than Lowood School, where you so long resided yourself. It seems her career there was very honourable. From a pupil she became a teacher, like yourself. Really, it strikes me there are parallel points in her history and yours. She left it to be a governess. There, again, your fates were analogous. She undertook the education of the ward of a certain Mr. Rochester.
Mr. Rivers.
I can guess your feelings, but restrain them for a while. I have nearly finished. Hear me to the end. Of Mr. Rochester's character I know nothing, but the one fact that he professed to offer honourable marriage to this young girl, and that at the very altar she discovered he had a wife yet alive, though a lunatic. What his subsequent conduct and proposals were is a matter of pure conjecture, but when an event transpired which rendered inquiry after the governess necessary, it was discovered she was gone. No one could tell when, where, or how. She had left Thornfield Hall in the night. Every research after her course had been vain. The country had been scoured far and wide. No vestige of information could be gathered respecting her. Yet that she should be found is become a matter of serious urgency. Advertisements have been put in all the papers. I myself have received a letter from one Mr. Briggs, a solicitor, communicating the details I have just imparted. Is it not an odd tale?
Just tell me this, and since you know so much, you surely can tell me, what of Mr. Rochester? How and where is he? What is he doing? Is he well?
I am ignorant of all concerning Mr. Rochester. The letter never mentions him but to narrate the fraudulent and illegal attempt I have adverted to. You should rather ask the name of the governess, the nature of the event which requires her appearance.
Did no one go to Thornfield Hall then? Did no one see Mr. Rochester?
I suppose not.
But they wrote to him.
Of course.
And what did he say? Who has his letters?
Mr. Briggs intimates that the answer to his application was not from Mr. Rochester, but from a lady. It is signed Alice Fairfax. He must have been a bad man.
You don't know him. Don't pronounce an opinion upon him.
Very well. And indeed my head is otherwise occupied than with him. I have my tale to finish. Briggs wrote to me of a Jane Eyre. The advertisements demanded a Jane Eyre. I knew a Jane Elliot. I confess I had my suspicions, but it was only yesterday afternoon that they were at once resolved into certainty. You own the name and renounce the alias?
Yes. But where is Mr. Briggs? He perhaps knows more of Mr. Rochester than you do.
Briggs is in London. I should doubt his knowing anything at all about Mr. Rochester. It is not in Mr. Rochester he is interested. Meantime, you forgot essential points in pursuing trifles. You do not inquire why Mr. Briggs sought after you?
Well, what did he want?
Merely to tell you that your uncle, Mr. Eyre of Madeira, is dead, that he has left you all his property, and that you are now rich. Merely that, nothing more.
I? Rich?
Yes, you. Rich. Quite an heiress. You must prove your identity, of course, a step which will offer no difficulties. You can then enter on immediate possession. Your fortune is vested in English funds. Briggs has the will and the necessary documents. You unbend your forehead at last. I thought Medusa had looked at you, and that you were turning to stone. Perhaps now you will ask how much you are worth?
How much am I worth?
Oh, a trifle. Nothing, of course, to speak of. £20,000, I think they say, but what is that?
£20,000?
Well, if you had committed a murder and I had told you your crime was discovered, you could scarcely look more aghast.
It is a large sum. Don't you think there's a mistake? Perhaps you have read the figures wrong. It may be 2,000.
No mistake at all. It is written in letters, not figures. 20,000. If it were not such a very wild night, I would send Hannah down to keep you company. You look too desperately miserable to be left alone. But Hannah, poor woman, could not stride the drifts so well as I. Her legs are not quite so long. So I must leave you to your sorrows. Good night.
Stop 1 minute.
Well?
It puzzles me to know why Mr. Briggs wrote to you about me. Or how he knew you. Or could fancy that you, living in such an out-of-the-way place, had the power to aid in my discovery.
Oh, I am a clergyman, and the clergy are often appealed to about odd matters.
No, that does not satisfy me. It is a very strange piece of business. I must know more about it.
Another time.
No. Tonight. You certainly shall not go until you've told me all.
But I apprised you that I was a hard man, difficult to persuade.
I am a hard woman. impossible to put off.
Well, then I yield, if not to your earnestness, to your perseverance. A stone is worn by continual dropping. Besides, you must know some day, as well now as later. Your name is Jane Eyre?
Of course. That was all settled before.
You are not, perhaps, aware that I am your namesake?
No, indeed. I remember now seeing the letter E, comprised in your initials written in books you have at different times lent me. But I never asked for what name it stood. But what then? Surely...
My mother's name was Eyre. She had 2 brothers, one a clergyman who married Miss Jane Reed of Gateshead, the other John Eyre, Esquire, merchant, late of Funchal, Madeira. Mr. Briggs, being Mr. Eyre's solicitor, wrote to us last August to inform us of our uncle's death, and to say he had left his property to his brother, the clergyman's orphan daughter, overlooking us, in consequence of a quarrel never forgiven between him and my father. He wrote again a few weeks since to intimate that the heiress was lost, and asking if we knew anything of her. A name casually written on a slip of paper has enabled me to find her out. You know the rest.
My Uncle John was your Uncle John? You, Diana, and Mary are his sister's children, and I am his brother's child.
Undeniably.
You 3, then, are my cousins. Half our blood on each side flows from the same source.
We are cousins, yes.
Oh, I am glad.
Did I not say you neglected essential points to pursue trifles? You were serious when I had told you got a fortune. And now, for a matter of no moment, you are excited.
Write to Diana and Mary tomorrow. Tell them to come home directly. Diana said they would both consider themselves rich with £1,000. So with 5,000, they will do very well.
You think so now because you do not know what it is to possess, nor, consequently, to enjoy wealth. You cannot form a notion of the importance £20,000 would give you, of the place it would enable you to take in society, of the prospects it would open to you. You cannot.
And you cannot at all imagine the craving I have for fraternal and sisterly love. I never had a home. I never had brothers or sisters. I must and will have them now. You are not reluctant to admit me and own me, are you?
I think I can. I know I have always loved my own sisters, and I know on what my affection for them is grounded. Respect for their worth and admiration of their talents. You too have principle and mind. Your tastes and habits resemble Diana's and Mary's. Your presence is always agreeable to me. In your conversation I have already for some time found a salutary solace. I feel I can easily and naturally make room in my heart for you, as my third and youngest sister.
Thank you. That contents me for tonight.
Jane, I go in 6 weeks. I have taken my berth in an East Indiaman, which sails on the 20th of June.
God will protect you, for you have undertaken his work.
Jane, come with me to India. Come as my helpmeet and fellow labourer. God and nature intended you for a missionary's wife. It is not personal, but mental endowments they have given you. You are formed for labour, not for love. A missionary's wife you must, shall be. You shall be mine. I claim you, not for my pleasure, but for my sovereign service.
I am not fit for it. I have no vocation. But my powers, where are they for this undertaking? I do not feel them. Nothing speaks or stirs in me while you talk. I am sensible of no light kindling, no life quickening, no voice counselling or cheering. Oh, I wish I could make you see how much my mind is at this moment, like a rayless dungeon, with one shrinking fear fettered in its depths. The fear of being persuaded by you to attempt what I cannot accomplish.
I have an answer for you. Hear it. I have watched you ever since we first met. I have made you my study for 10 months. I have proved you in that time by sundry tests. And what I have seen and elicited? In the village school I found you could perform well, punctually, uprightly, labour uncongenial to your habits and inclinations. I saw you could perform it with capacity and tact. You could win while you controlled. In the calm with which you learnt you had become suddenly rich, I read a mind clear of the vice of Demas. Lucre had no undue power over you. In the resolute readiness with which you cut your wealth into 4 shares, keeping but one to yourself, and relinquishing the 3 others to the claim of abstract justice, I recognized a soul that revelled in the flame and excitement of sacrifice, in the tractability with which, at my wish, you forsook a study in which you were interested, and adopted another because it interested me, in the untiring assiduity with which you have since persevered in it, in the unflagging energy and unshaken temper with which you have met its difficulties. I acknowledge the compliment of the qualities I seek. Jane, you are docile, diligent, disinterested, faithful, constant and courageous, very gentle and very heroic. Cease to mistrust yourself. I can trust you unreservedly, as a conductress of Indian schools and a helper amongst Indian women. Your assistance will be to me invaluable. I shall give you a quarter of an hour for your answer. What does your heart say?
I am ready to go to India, if I may go free.
Your answer requires a commentary. It is not clear.
I regard you as a brother. You, me as a sister. So let us continue.
We cannot. It would not do. I want a wife. The sole helpmeet I can influence efficiently in life, and retain absolutely till death.
Seek one elsewhere than in me. Seek one fitted to you.
One fitted to my purpose, you mean? Fitted to my vocation? Again, I tell you it is not the insignificant private individual, the mere man with the man's selfish senses. I wish to mate. It is the missionary.
And I will give the missionary my energies. It is all he wants. But not myself. That would only be adding the husk and shell to the kernel. For them he has no use. I retain them.
You cannot. You ought not. Do you think God will be satisfied with half an oblation? Will he accept a mutilated sacrifice? It is the cause of God I advocate. It is under his standard I enlist you. I cannot accept on his behalf a divided allegiance. It must be entire.
Oh, I will give my heart to God. You do not want it.
It is what I want. And there are obstacles in the way. They must be hewn down. Jane, you would not repent marrying me. Be certain of that. We must be married. I repeat it, there is no other way. And undoubtedly enough of love would follow upon marriage to render the union right, even in your eyes.
I scorn your idea of love. I scorn the counterfeit sentiment you offer. Yes, I scorn you when you offer it.
I think I have done nothing to deserve scorn.
My dear cousin, abandon your scheme of marriage. Forget it.
I know where your heart turns, and to what it clings. The interest you cherish is lawless and unconsecrated. Long since you ought to have crushed it. Now you should blush to allude to it. You think of Mr. Rochester?
I must find out what has become of him.
If I listened to human pride, I should say no more to you of marriage with me. But I listen to my duty, and keep steadily in view my first aim, to do all things to the glory of God. My master was long-suffering, so will I be. I cannot give you up to perdition as a vessel of wrath. Repent, resolve, while there is yet time. Remember, we are bid to work while it is day, warned that the night cometh when no man shall work. Remember the fate of Divus, who had his good things in this life. God give you strength to choose that better part which shall not be taken from you. Could you decide to marry me now?
I could decide if I were but certain. Were I but convinced that it was God's will I should marry you. I could vow to marry you here and now, come afterwards, what would.
My prayers are heard.
Show me the path.
Jane! Jane!
What is it?
What do you hear? What do you see?
Where are you? I'm coming! Wait for me!
Will you take my arm, sir? There is a heavy shower coming on. Had you not better go in?
Leave me alone.
Miss Eyre, is it really you, miss? Have you finally come back to this lonely place?
What happened here?
The fire broke out at dead of night, and before the engines arrived from Millcote, the building was one mass of flame. It was a terrible spectacle.
At dead of night? Was it known how it originated?
Miss Jane!
How are you, Leah?
Well enough, miss.
I was explaining to Miss Eyre about the fire.
His poor wife said it. The mad creature broke out of her attic room and set some drapes on fire.
What happened to her?
Mr. Rochester went to find her. She was in your room, Miss Eyre, raving and carrying on like the frantic lunatic she was.
He tried to stop her, but she fought him wildly, and then she leapt from the window.
God have mercy.
I found her, miss, sprawled out on the pavement. There was no saving her.
And Mr. Rochester, is he...
Leah! Where the deuce is my tray?
Give the tray to me, Leah. I will take it to him.
He won't wish to see you, miss. He refuses everybody.
Why?
It was all his own courage, and a body may say his kindness, in a way, Miss Eyre. He wouldn't leave the house till everyone else was out before him. As he came down the great staircase at last, after Mrs. Rochester had flung herself from the battlements, there was a great crash, all fell. He was taken out from under the ruins, alive, but sadly hurt. A beam had fallen in such a way as to protect him partly, but one eye was knocked out, and one hand so crushed that Mr. Carter, the surgeon, had to amputate it directly. The other eye inflamed. He lost the sight of that also. He is now helpless indeed, blind and a cripple.
Give me the water, Leah. This is you, Leah, is it not?
Leah is in the kitchen.
Answer me. Speak again. Who is it? Who speaks?
Will you have a little more water, sir?
Great heaven. What great delusion has come over me? What sweet madness! Is it Jane? What is it? This is her shape. This is her size.
And this her voice. She's all here. Her heart too. God bless you, sir. I'm glad to be so near you again.
Jane Eyre!
My dear master. I am Jane Eyre. I have found you out. I am come back to you.
My living darling. These are certainly her limbs. And these her features. But I cannot be so blessed after all my misery. It is a dream, such dreams as I have had at night when I have clasped her once more to my heart as I do now, and kissed her as thus, and felt that she loved me, and trusted that she would not leave me.
Which I never will, sir. From this day.
Never will, says the vision. But I always woke and found it an empty mockery. And I was desolate and abandoned. My life dark, lonely, hopeless. My soul athirst and forbidden to drink. My heart famished and never to be fed. Gentle, soft dream, nestling in my arms now. You will fly too, as your sisters have all fled before you. But kiss me before you go. Embrace me, Jane.
There, sir. And there.
And you do not lie dead in some ditch under some stream? And you are not a pining outcast among strangers?
No, sir. I am an independent woman now.
Independent? What do you mean, Jane?
My uncle in Madeira is dead. And he left me £5,000.
But as you are rich, Jane, you have now no doubt friends who will look after you and not suffer you to devote yourself to a blind amateur like me.
I am my own mistress, and will stay with you if you wish.
No, Jane. You must not go. No, I have touched you, heard you, felt the comfort of your presence, the sweetness of your consolation. I cannot give up these joys. I have little left in myself. I must have you. The world may laugh, may call me absurd, selfish, but it does not signify. My very soul demands you. It will be satisfied, or it will take deadly vengeance on its frame. Oh, Jane, what did I feel when I discovered you had fled from Thornfield, and when I could nowhere find you, and after examining your apartment, ascertained that you had taken no money, nor anything which could serve as equivalent. A pearl necklace I had given you lay untouched in its little casket. Your trunks were left corded and locked as they had been prepared for the bridal tour. What could my darling do, I asked, left destitute and penniless? And what did she do? Let me hear now. Ah, here I reach the root of the matter. He wanted you to marry him.
He asked me to marry him.
Oh, that is a fiction. An impudent invention to vex me.
I beg your pardon. It is the literal truth. He asked me more than once, and was as stiff about urging his point as ever you could be.
Miss Eyre, I repeat it. You can leave me. How often am I to say the same thing? Why do you remain pertinaciously perched on my knee when I have given you notice to quit?
Because I'm comfortable there.
No, Jane, you are not comfortable there. Because your heart is not with me. It is with this cousin, this St. John. Oh, till this moment I thought my little Jane was all mine. I had a belief she loved me, even when she left me. That was an atom of sweet in much bitter. Long as we have been parted, hot tears have I wept over our separation. I never thought that, while I was mourning her, she was loving another. But it is useless grieving. Jane, leave me. Go and marry Rivers.
Shake me off, then, sir. Push me away, for I'll not leave you of my own accord.
Jane, I ever like your tone of voice. It still renews hope. It sounds so truthful. When I hear it, it carries me back a year. I forget that you have formed a new tie. But I am not a fool. Go.
Where must I go, sir?
Your own way. With the husband you have chosen.
And who is that?
You know, this St. John Rivers.
He is not my husband, nor ever will be. He does not love me. I do not love him. He loves, as he can love, and that is not as you love, a beautiful young lady called Rosamond. He wanted to marry me only because he thought I should make a suitable missionary's wife, which she would not have done. He is good and great, but severe, and for me cold as an iceberg. He's not like you, sir. I am not happy at his side, nor near him, nor with him. He has no indulgence for me, no fondness. He sees nothing attractive in me, not even youth, only a few useful mental points. Then, I must leave you, sir, to go to him.
What, Jane? Is this true? Is such really the state of matters between you and Rivers?
Absolutely, sir. Oh, you need not be jealous. I wanted to tease you a little to make you less sad. I thought anger would be better than grief. But if you wish me to love you, could you but see how much I do love you, you would be proud and content. All my heart is yours, sir. It belongs to you. And with you it would remain, were fate to exile the rest of me from your presence forever.
Jane, I want a wife.
Do you, sir?
Yes. Is it news to you?
Of course, you said nothing about it before.
Is it unwelcome news?
That depends on the circumstances, sir. On your choice.
Which you shall make for me, Jane. I will abide by your decision.
Choose then, sir. Her who loves you best.
I will at least choose her I love best. Jane, will you marry me?
Yes, sir.
A poor, blind man, whom you will have to lead about by the hand. A crippled man, 20 years older than you, whom you will have to wait on.
Yes, sir.
Truly, Jane.
Most truly, sir.
Oh, my darling. God bless you and reward you.
Mr. Rochester, if ever I did a good deed in my life, if ever I thought a good thought, if ever I prayed a sincere and blameless prayer, if ever I wished a righteous wish, I am rewarded now. To be your wife is, for me, to be as happy as I can be on this earth.
But a curious point. I was in my own room, and sitting by the window, which was open. It soothed me to feel the balmy night air, though I could see no stars, and only by a vague luminous haze knew the presence of a moon. I longed for thee, Jane. Oh, I longed for thee both with soul and flesh. I asked of God, at once in anguish and humility, if I had not been long enough desolate, afflicted, tormented, and might not soon taste bliss and peace once more. That I merited all I endured, I acknowledged. That I could scarcely endure more, I pleaded. And the Alpha and Omega of my heart's wishes broke involuntarily from my lips in the words, Jane, Jane, Jane.
Did you speak these words aloud?
I did, Jane. If any listener had heard me, he would have thought me mad. I pronounced them with such frantic energy.
And it was last Monday night? Somewhere near midnight?
Yes, but the time is of no consequence. What followed is the strange point. You will think me superstitious. Some superstition I have in my blood, and always had. Nevertheless, this is true. True at least it is that I heard what I now relate. As I exclaimed, Jane, 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 a voice. I cannot tell whence the voice came, but I know whose voice it was.
I am coming. Wait for me. Where are you?
Ah, Jane, perhaps your soul wandered from its cell to comfort mine. For those were your accents. As certain as I live, they were yours. I thank my Maker that in the midst of judgment, he has remembered mercy. I humbly entreat my Redeemer to give me strength to lead henceforth a purer life than I have done hitherto.
Listener, I married him. Edward continued blind for the first 2 years of marriage, and then slowly the sight in one eye became restored to him. And when our first child was placed into his arms, he could see that the boy had inherited his eyes as they once were, large, brilliant, and black.
Tonight's performance featured the voice talents of Lexi DeSaller, Marissa Chapera, Colette Fian, John Lingard, Margaret Ashley, Jerry Kokich, Gabe Harris, Emily Smith, Rory L., Glenn Haskell, Pete Lutz, Alexa Chipman, Rhiannon McAfee, Melissa Fry, Carl Warner, Delaney Brittingham, Becca Marcus, Frank Guglielmelli, Lisa Michaud, Abby Brown, Elise Krawick, Alex Macedo, Oceana L., Peter Heimsoth, Jarman Day, Mindy Raskinen, Andrea Richardson, Kareem Cronfley, Heath Martin, Paul Arbisi, Carrie Miker Ayers, Shane Harris, Joshua Spector, and John Bell.